Hey Mayo, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Not bad. I've got some breaking news I want to share with you today.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, for the podcast, we record our audio naturally, and you every week you remind me to record my audio naturally. And just today, I opened QuickTime, and I'm on macOS Big Sur Beta. I don't know, 9, I think is the latest version, and it has a new icon.
Ooh.
Yeah, I just
So the
wanted to,
old icon was literally the QuickTime logo that everybody knows in like a blue round rect.
yes.
So what is the new icon?
The new icon is the old logo that everybody knows in a black round rec.
Well, blow me over. They really took the time to invest in a new icon there.
It looks better. There's more contrast. Isn't that what this podcast is icon talk?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like the macOS icon set of the Big Sur stuff, the ones that they actually took the time and did properly, I like, but there's definitely some ones that they've just kind of like slapped together and
Yeah.
shipped it. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
concept's fine, but some of the icons definitely need more care and attention to, convert them into the round rect shape than just taking the old icon and putting a single flat color on the behind on the.
Yeah. Kind of like the home app. Let's talk about some news this week. So you're in the UK. You've always been in the UK. You have
Represent.
a new Maps. You have a new Maps app.
Yes, finally. So this was announced earlier this year. They said it's coming to like Canada and Germany and Britain, and so far we started seeing like testing going on in the UK. I'd say in the start of September, and like a lot of these Apple Maps rollouts, it shows up for some people and then goes away, and then they bring it back again for on different subset of test devices, and then they take it away. And I'm pretty sure that is literally just Apple doing like public beta testing of whatever new algorithms they use to make these maps, because someone screenshotted I think it was Birmingham, and it looked like Venice. They'd errantly like covered the entire place in water, so it was just like rivers everywhere with like tiny islands of houses in the middle. But then they got reverted, and now it's back to being done properly and stuff. So we were doing the ebb and flow soon. It was coming up, but literally about 2 hours ago, Apple released a press statement on the UK newsroom that said Apple Maps is officially launching. The new Apple Maps is officially launching in the UK and Ireland. I've literally just got it. Look, I've looked at my phone now. My mum got it earlier in the week on like Monday, and she was driving, and she called me up. She's like, "Benjamin, on the car now, it's showing me traffic lights, and I can see building outlines," because she uses CarPlay, obviously, so it just updated through her phone.
Yeah, cool.
So that was cool, and I think Apple Maps is great. Like I know people, it still has that it's still marred by or tarred or tainted by the reputation of like the launch time frame, and there was definitely a time early on where it was just not good enough, right? But
that was so long ago too. That was before. That was iOS 6. Before
yeah,
iOS
so
7.
that's iOS 6, which is 2012.
It was the same year as might have been 2000. Yeah, 2012.
Yeah, it's 12 because 13 was iOS 7.
Yeah, it's like right around there with the lightning cable change.
Yep. Yeah, because that 2012 was lightning cable, Apple Maps, and then Forster was fired, obviously, because of various things. But kind of the thing that broke the camel's back was the Maps debacle. Mm. But if you fast forward 5 years from 2012 to 2017, even in 2017, the Apple Maps experience is way better than what it was. And from everything we've seen,
very low.
From everything what we've seen in the US, like the new map experience, which rolled out across the United States last year, by the end, scraping in just at the end of the year, actually, and now is launching the UK today. They go all guns blazing on this thing, and it's clearly a service that they care about, and at least for the time being, it's a service that you don't have to pay for.
Yeah, we're still going to get Maps Plus when you have to pay for offline maps and stuff like that.
Right.
It's coming. Well,
yeah, offline maps would be a good feature for them to add, obviously, because I think
for free.
I think Google Maps had for ages, obviously, but
for free.
For free, right? Yeah. And Apple should do it for free, because now they own the map data. They don't have to pay anyone. And I think that was the problem before for offline maps, is they never got the licenses for it, because Apple Maps basically synthesized 20 different data sources, and a lot.
Then it would be like Apple Music, where you have like licenses of other people's stuff. But in this case they have their own, so please don't charge for it.
Yeah, they should do it. Like, even if it's just download your local area for because on the Google Maps experience, you can download like a pretty big, like zoomed out section in extreme detail in like 4 gigabytes worth of space. So it's not like small enough that they could just do it automatically, but it's for anyone with a decently sized phone, you can get like a very rich detailed maps, because all the actual cartography is all stored as like vectors, which are just like, numbers. The original maps experience was done by like tiling images, so it was massive JPEGs, and that could never be stored on a local device. It was to load them in. But since they did the iOS 6 Apple Maps, they switched to vector, which can be stored on a huge scale for very, very low data sizes. And it's just great if you fall out of networking, even if you're going on like a navigation, if they just cache the entire route. Like they do some of that, but not the whole way. So if they could just get to a point where they just cache the whole route from start to top, from bottom to top, it'd push it forward even further.
Yep. I had an experience, I think it was like a few weeks ago, I saw the red light camera show up on some trips I was taking, and that was cool. But that was just like, I guess I had the map open. Well, no, I was navigating then too, because I was going to somewhere I hadn't been before. This past week, I've had a new experience where you don't just have the red lights and the icons for red light cameras, but Siri will speak as like part of your navigation, instructions. There's a red light camera ahead. So the idea is that you don't have to even look at the screen. You get notified by audio that, hey, don't run that red light. Now, this red light that I was approaching with the red light camera, I still got in there when it was like yellow and I was turning left. And so it took longer than, I probably had time for. And I looked up and, it was red. I'm like, oh, man, I was warned by Siri for the first time, and I still managed to.
The red light camera thing must be quite intricate, because obviously red lights aren't always red, right? So there has to be like live data there to actually do it.
Well, I don't know. I think it at least labels it.
I know in some places, it just tells you there's traffic lights here, right? And it doesn't know the state. But in some areas, it does actually know when they turn to red.
Okay, that's interesting then.
That's obviously not worldwide, but in some places, it does actually know like there's a red light like right here.
Yeah, like not just a stoplight, but it's red. So maps. I'm glad that you have the new maps experience, because
and they rolled out Look Around in London, Dublin, and somewhere, and one other.
So that's the Apple version of Google Street View.
Correct. And again, the Apple Look Around stuff is really high quality, and they take way more images per 10
So now
feet.
you can buy Apple glasses and you can just like walk around London without leaving your home.
I'm sure they're going to do that at some point, right? Like, but the downside of Look Around, obviously, is that it's nowhere near as pervasive as what Street View is, right? Google literally has 95% of the country of the world photographed.
Yeah. So the difference is like Apple's is good where they have it, but it's just not as in many places, right?
Yeah, and they've added cities since it launched and stuff, but it's still pales in comparison in total. They go for like the big capital cities basically at the moment, but it's good if you have it in your area.
Yeah. Speaking of big capital cities, a couple of things here. So in the UK where you live, you have new maps. You also have a nationwide COVID-19 exposure notification contact tracing app now.
Yes. Yeah. So fine. There was a whole hoo-ha about them. Like in April, they were going to make their own thing using their own centralized server stuff, and they gave up on that in like July, and then they were like, we're going to adopt the Apple and Google thing, but because they'd only started it late and stuff, it took forever. But finally last week they shipped it, and I mean, I installed it, I'm running it. I haven't had any notifications of any kind from it yet. Like, it hasn't told me I haven't been exposed, hasn't told me I have been exposed, so I assume it's working. But I'm just glad.
Probably staying home too.
True, that as well. But I know there's like a is it a weekly or a monthly like update thing it does, where it just tells you that you haven't been exposed at the moment on stuff like that. Yeah, but I haven't had anything yet, so I'll just hang fire and see what happens. But I'm glad they rolled it out, and it's just nice that we're on the right side of history for a change.
And you have NHS as National Health Service?
So that covers England and Ireland, I believe.
Okay.
And then there's like a separate one for Scotland, and probably another one for Northern Ireland as well.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, there's no national contact tracing app in the US. The CDC seemed to have supported that, but didn't happen. And it seemed like the compromise was, we're not going to do a national app, so we'll have a states app instead. And as of today, New York and New Jersey are online, and there's a handful of new cities that have been, or new states that have been added prior. We're up to 11 states out of 50. 51 if you include DC, 57 if you include territories like Puerto Rico. So we'll say 11 out of 57, and this is
7 months on.
Yeah. So, but the big thing today was, I mean, New York is a massively populated area, and this is a tool that it will be very effective in New York, I believe.
And they launched like a proper app, right? They're not using the new like Express system that Apple released.
Correct. Yeah. There's one company, I think that it might have made the Ireland app, which I guess is the UK app, but they seem to be aggressive about saying, hey, look, we built a successful app. Let us make your state's app too. And there's a handful of states, including California, where Apple and Google are located, and a lot of people live, where they're testing with this new system. Well, it's not a new system. They're using the existing system from months ago, but they're using this vendor who's making the app for them, and they're trialing that. And so that's like, I think there's like maybe one other app that was like a 2-state app in different versions, and this one is like maybe 5 or 6, and at least 2 of those states are out. New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, so a third one. Delaware has 4. I think Connecticut's coming soon to use this app. Some that I'm watching for, because I live in the Southeast, is I don't expect, like, Alabama is included. I don't spend a whole lot of time there. I don't reside there. Mississippi, where I do live, is not included, and there's no sign of support. Florida, where I spend a lot of time, that would be a very useful state to have this kind of an app, as many people travel, and there's nothing there. And even by having 11 out of 57 territories in the U.S., it's like, unless like all the places that you travel are included, it's kind of weird. Like it's not that useful if because then it breaks down of like how many people are actually using it and that kind of thing. But if there's no app at all and only a portion,
I mean, from like the Apple perspective, they obviously are doing what they can to evangelize it, and they even out like the COVID exposure notification express system, which makes it even easier, so you don't even need to work with third-party vendors. But uptake is clearly slow. Like, at least Apple and Google did the right thing and partnered up, way back when, and actually got something together. Because in a different universe, they could have been going their separate ways with their own proprietary system. So it's at least good that they partnered up on this stuff, right? And at least the decision making isn't sitting at their feet; it's just sitting at everyone else's.
Yeah, and there's another step in this process, which is eventually Apple removes this feature from iOS. When this is all behind us, who knows what iOS version that will be? But like, that's part of the promise. That's part of the promise. Is not just like universally, but by region, they'll turn off the feature where even if you have an app, like, it's no longer needed, and so they turn off the feature in iOS, or for Google's part on Android. I don't think anyone's anywhere close to that point, but that's a point we'll get to eventually, is where this thing isn't needed, but we're not close to that yet. That's kind of where we are.
It's slow and speedy at the same time.
Yep.
All right, let's take a break. This week, 95 Mac and Happy Hour is teaming up with Charge ASAP to celebrate the launch of its new Amiga Charger to give away a MacBook Pro to one lucky reader. The Amiga is the world's first and smallest 200 watt and 100 watt USB-C charger. It uses second generation gallium nitride technology, which addresses the heat and inaccurate power distribution problems of the first gen GaN chargers. The Amiga is using a graphene membrane for advanced heat reduction, and it's compatible with all of Apple's devices, iPhones, iPads, Macs, including the 16-inch MacBook Pro, as well as any Android device with Quick Charge 3.0. The charger comes with connector plugs for the United States, Australia, and Europe, giving it worldwide compatibility with more than 200 countries. And the charger has foldable prongs, so it's easy to connect on any floor or wall outlet. Featuring 2 100-watt USB-C ports and 2 USB-A quick charge ports, you can charge up to 4 devices simultaneously. And this all comes in a package smaller than a credit card. Limited early bird stock is available now for only $45 for the 100-watt version and $75 for the 200-watt version. That's 50% off the standard retail price. Check out the link in the show notes to buy the Amiga Charger, and remember to enter the MacBook Pro giveaway. Thanks to Charge ASAP for sponsoring this show.
It's a sweet giveaway. Wow, cool. AirPods and iOS 14. We've got some things to discuss there. Spatial audio has been out for a little while. This week, I have AirPods Pro. I lost my engraved charging case. I didn't
Oh
lose it.
no,
I just misplaced it. It's somewhere. I just don't know where. I think it's at home somewhere.
that's one of the new engravings, right? The modern engraving with the cooler
Yep.
font.
Yep.
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 That didn't take you long to lose that.
But I didn't lose my AirPods, so that's the important part, just the case. And so the case was replaced for $60 on eBay. So it's better than like Apple's prices, and much better than spending another $250 on AirPods Pro. But so before we started podcasting, I was like, I'm gonna try out spatial audio because I know Guy Rambo and N5 Mac has tried it out and he thinks it's really neat. And it's a cool new feature. It's like one of the reasons I wanted to find my case so bad. And I opened up Apple TV on the iPhone, played an episode a long way up, asked you how do you know if you have it. You told me that you go to Control Center and you press into the volume indicator and there's an option for it, and it wasn't there.
Toggle.
Yeah, and it wasn't there for me, which means it's like the firmware that you can't control on the AirPods, Pro or any kind of AirPods, I guess. It hasn't updated yet, and there's always a ritual, like a kind of a rain dance that you do to make it update manually over the span of several hours, and I haven't done that rain dance yet. So
yeah, you have to leave the case open, pray to the firmware gods, check its charging, take it out, leave it alone, nurture it like a child, and then maybe it'll update. Because unlike all of Apple's other devices, you can't just go into settings and force an update to start. You just have to leave it in the ether, and then it'll eventually work it out.
Yeah.
Similarly, I would like to try spatial audio, but I only possess second generation AirPods, not AirPods Pro, so they don't have the gyroscope in them, the more modern chip. So spatial audio doesn't work.
Would you buy? I think we probably talked about this. I'm sure we have, but are you one of the customers for AirPod Studio, the on-ear or over-ear headphones?
Yes, I think I will be picking up AirPods Studio, probably to replace what I'm wearing right now, which is what I wear when I'm in my office, basically. And not using the HomePods if I'm just either doing a podcast, or just listening to something directly. But I don't know if I'd be these don't really leave this room, so I don't know if they'd be travel things because they're just so big. I don't know, unless I was going for multiple days somewhere. If I'm just going out for the day, I'll just be taking the pocketable AirPods. But I would be in the market for AirPods third generation, right? That have the gyroscopes and the microphones and maybe the smaller stems as well, and the newer force sensor button activation, like what the AirPods Pro have. Basically, take the AirPods Pro technology and bring it to the non-in-ear buds of the AirPods line. Because I have actually tried AirPods Pro on once, and the in-ear style, it's not uncomfortable, but I just don't like it, right? It doesn't fit my ears very well, and I prefer the more classic bud style where they just kind of sit on the outside of the ears. And yes, they have transparency mode and stuff, but I like real, really being able to hear the outside world. And the buds give you that they give you that ambience that the in-ear ones just never can quite match. Where the AirPods Pro do a really good job at not making it feel isolating, but they're still sealed, right? Whereas the quote unquote cheaper AirPods don't have that effect. So I'd be all in for third gen AirPods whenever they're coming out, but the rumors for that don't seem to suggest anything coming, until maybe March, April time.
Yeah, AirPods Pro is so good for me. And I love being able to turn off the noise around me with noise cancellation. And I never use the in-between mode where it's just ambient silence.
Transparency.
Well, no, I use that all the time. But there's the in-between setting where it's just natural, it's
okay, right, yeah.
And you get a little bit more battery life that way because it's doing less processing. But I never use that mode. It's either transparency, so I want to hear everything, or noise cancellation, where I don't. And I toggle regularly, so it's really neat that you're not changing your actual earphones to do that, but just with a toggle. And I like them so much. So I had to replace the first pair that I had of AirPods Pro after my dog chewed up one of them, and then the replacement that I paid for it was kind of flaky, and so I was just I'm going to try again with a whole new set. And so gave those to my brother, and then bought a whole new set, and then lost the case and replaced the case with that. But I was in Best Buy before I had the new case for the AirPods Pro, And I was looking because there's a lot of stuff that's like AirPods now that's just not,
Yep.
integrated with iOS in the same way. From what Google has to what Samsung has to probably more that I'm not thinking about. But there's a lot of truly
Yeah, Bose
wireless.
have pairs. There's loads of wireless earbuds.
Yeah,
Loads of stuff.
that do interesting things. I think Sony is makes them too.
Microsoft one's apparently pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
That they're not just like copycat products, but they're better in other areas. And but none of them really appealed to me except for that they weren't white.
Yeah, please do
I,
black AirPods, Apple, please.
yeah, I would buy them again the day if they were unchanged just for that. But anyway, yeah, AirPods. And then also you wanted to mention the automatic device switching. Is that something that you can take
Yeah,
advantage
that is
of?
something I can do. So that does
Okay,
work on
cool.
second gen buds as well. And so that is the feature where, say, if you have an iPhone playing music in the music app and you've got your AirPods in and they're paired to the phone, then you go pick up your iPad and you like press play a video or something. The audio will be automatically rerouted from being paired to the phone to being paired to the iPad. And so before iOS 14, you would have to go to Control Center, click the button, and then change the input manually. Whereas post iOS 14 does that for you. Obviously, it's always done it automatically for the watch, and starting when Big Sur comes out, it would do it for the Mac as well. So basically, you would get automatic switching between iPhone, iPad, and Mac. And that's supported on second gen AirPods and AirPods Pro, and obviously AirPods Studio when they come out soon. For me, I love it but I think that there will be segments of customers who will find it annoying and will want to turn it off. And it is the default, but you can disable it.
Oh, okay, cool, nice.
Yeah,
good to know.
And I actually did a post about how to disable it if you're interested. So you can
Google
that. Yeah, because my brother actually. He updated to iOS 14 and he complained about this like the day after. Whereas I enjoy it and I use it. But what my brother does a lot of the time is he'll like be in his room and he'll and I always think it's crazy, but he has like a YouTube video playing on his iPad. Yes. He has Discord running on his phone, and then he has he's playing on the Xbox. And so if you're like scrolling Twitter on your phone, and then you just like change the YouTube video. The automatic switch in doesn't know what to do, so it will go back and forward constantly. And when it switches to the iPad, it pauses the phone, so it kind of gets in the way if you're trying to use both devices at the same time. What it's really designed for is the use case of like what I do, where it's like you're only using your phone, then you pick up your iPad, and you're basically only using your iPad, and then you put your iPad down, and you're only using your phone again.
Well, just wait until Big Sur comes out, and then you'll have your own conflicts.
Yeah,
because I'm sure you go between Mac and phone regularly.
Yeah, exactly. So it can get annoying if you're like playing music on the Mac and then you just want to go to your Twitter on your phone and you just want to watch like a 30-second video, right? Through like that's just come up on your Twitter feed. Now, as a human, you don't want to change the source from what the music's playing, but the automatic device switching is going to switch over. So you'll switch back to the phone to hear the 30-second video, and then you have to press play again on the Mac for it to go back. So at least right now, I do find it useful, but I can definitely see a big segment of people who will find it frustrating. But you can disable it, so the option is there.
Yeah, I've ran into like one time where I had to change it back manually to because it automatically changed something I didn't want it to, and I was like, oh, it was annoying. But I think in most situations it's going to be pretty good. So report more as we use those things. I have a new Apple Watch band this week.
Woo!
Well, so I'm back in Florida for some rocket launch stuff for spaceexplored.com, and by being near an Apple store, I was like, I got their Apple Watch Series 6 review unit in red. Came with a charcoal braided solo loop band. Is that the right name?
That is the right name.
I'm coming around on those names. In size 8, and so it removed the guessing of if I wanted to try a solo loop sport.
No sport, just solo loop, they call
it. Solo loop band, which is the sport band in the new style.
We know what you mean.
Yes. Then I didn't have to do anything with sizing or printing out something and trying it out and not being sure if it was right or wrong. So I just said, well, the size 8 from Apple fit correctly. Let me just do a size 8 in the new version of the sport band. And I got white for store pickup, and it was really easy where I just went in, did the pickup online or did the order online, picked a time slot to go into the mall and, walk up to the store and pick it up. And there was like a big crowd of people waiting to go inside and shop. and I was not looking forward to being in that. But then the Apple Store people were like, I just should have. I was here for a pickup and had my little reservation thing, and it was like two minutes, and I was gone. Didn't have to go into the store at all. It did remind me. I've not yet seen the 12.9-inch Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which came out. What was that, like March?
That was March. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was at the onset of COVID and restrictions.
I haven't seen it either, to be honest.
Yeah, I had the 11-inch version, and I always like to try all the things. And so just by the way of this year happening like it has, I've not been into an Apple store to try out the 12.9-inch version of that. And so I'm sure it's the same for a lot of people. But anyway, I did kind of like look in there and just thinking, what if I should go try it out? But I didn't go in the store at all. I just got my stuff and left. But the new band style, if you know your size, then that's cool. I knew my size, so it was no problem at all. That is pretty complex in terms of like buying the right version, and so I was fortunate that I didn't have to worry about that. It's $50, just like the last one was, or this Warp Band is, and it doesn't feel as nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's like light, but it's like the thing where your brain thinks that if it's heavier, it's nicer.
Right. Okay.
And it's much lighter, and so that might be appealing, and it's stretchy, and so it doesn't feel as like firm and like structured. So my first instinct was like, this feels cheap, but really it's lighter and designed to be stretched.
Yeah, because in a way it's like less sophisticated design because it's just like an elastic band, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas the sport band has clearly had thought into it in the way that the clasp works and the way you just tuck it underneath and stuff. And it, even though it's like Apple's cheapest band, it still feels pretty premium because it just feels relatively unique, right? Whereas I can imagine the solo loops, although they're like clever in their elegance, they're also like kind of simple, right?
Yes, it's like the most basic thing that you could draw out.
Yeah.
And that's another thing in the first like day of wearing it. I'm so used to seeing a sport band, and the braided version doesn't have this problem because there's so much intricacy in the braided design, and so and the material is pretty nice too. But the solo loop version is so simple, and it's like the same width, just like this how the nylon, the what do you call that, sport loop is, the Velcro style band, the sport loop, that one is the same width as well. The solo or the sport band, the default band, kind of narrows in a way and then rounds itself in, and then gets wider in the place that you tuck it into. And so there's a lot of change there. And so I felt like, oh, this is really plain too. Like in the back of my wrist, it just looks like a, I don't know, like a wristband or something that you get like going into a venue or something. So it had to grow on me, but I mean, without our friend Michael Stieber, our colleague Michael Stieber, had some nice thoughts on Twitter that was like, this really can't be the default band because of how many sizes there are, of the fact that, in a Best Buy, you're not going to have all those different SKUs and try on experiences. You can't do it online as easily, but in an Apple store, it's like, that's why it's only at Apple right now. Maybe that changes in the future, but all in all, it's like, this is different, but it's not the new default. And I do like it, but mostly just try it out. and I miss the, I even if it maybe is more elegant than the default band, the sport band, I kind of miss the detail that goes into that, making that work. It just seems more sophisticated.
So, kind of sounds like if it wasn't the novelty of it, you'd be still wearing the sport band.
That's right. And of the two new band styles, solo loop and braided solo loop, even though braided solo loop is $100 instead of $50, that one, I still wish they were both 50, or maybe like the solo loop was cheaper, but that one feels much nicer and like, just like a nicer, even on the aluminum watches, like it just feels more substantial. There is something that I've seen mentioned in different places, which is that you can see the stainless steel of the metal where the band goes in on the braided solo loops. These are the cloth ones. Okay. And you can at an angle, and it's silver still, like on the red watch. It's pretty glaring that it's there. And also that the width is kind of funny, where like it's a little bit narrower, as if it were maybe like the wrong size, like the 40 millimeter in the 44. but it's not that dramatic. But you do see, like, I don't know, the pen and or like the little air gap where the watch kind of can vent itself, and it's like it's not perfect is the point there.
Is that
And
why the Apple Store description says like requires Series 4 or later?
yes,
Am I remembering that right?
yeah, and it seems like it's almost made for before Series 4, because this is how it is. So I don't know, but it's something that I noticed a little bit, but it didn't bother me. And then I saw people mention it, and I saw like we had some tips about it. And it's like, oh, that is happening. That is weird, And you don't get that one with the rubbery one, just with the braided one.
Is it like that out of the box, or is it just kind of stretching out of shape? Do you know what I mean?
I didn't notice it at first, and I should go back and look at pictures because I definitely took pictures before I ever wore it. But that could
because I'd suspect that it's just wearing into it. It's just slightly pulling in the sides.
That makes sense, and also the whole sizing thing. So this is something I had in my head. I didn't have it in my notes, but I definitely do like the adjustability of bands, like a Milanese loop or the kind of Velcro style loop. You can infinitely adjust those. Like you can be a little bit loose, you can be really tight, which is good. And even for like the buckle bands that you can do that with the basic sport band, you can change what pen you're on. And for me, my wrist changes throughout the day, probably like based on hydration and stuff like that. And then also depending on what you're doing, you might want to have it tighter or looser. And with these, without having that adjustability, it's just one size fits all. As long as you pick your size right, then there's no adjustment. So if you want to kind of tighten it up, then you can't, or if you want to loosen it up a little bit, you can't. So it does feel like the sizing varies throughout the day based on different conditions. But so I think that's probably also why it's not like a default band, because I'm not sure that they're better. I think that they're just different.
And the main reason they're not default bands is because they couldn't do it. It's
so many
just
SKUs,
with the sizes.
Yeah. There's not even a whole lot of colors for these. There's like maybe 5 or 6 colors for each one. So pretty simple so far.
Currently.
Yeah. Just well, they'll get rid of some and replace them with more.
Yeah, true.
Something else I wanted to mention is last week I was talking about the Series 6 and how it has the always-on altimeter inside, so that measures your elevation, and how on the Explorer watch face I've had the complication on the bottom set to compass and elevation, which is like a combination complication. So it's 2 in 1. And when you dim the screen, lower your wrist, the compass blanks out, doesn't give you anything, and the altimeter being always on updates. And I thought about that more since I said it, and I've been like watching it, and that's not quite what happens. What happens is that the altimeter still shows you the number. It just doesn't change until you raise your wrist again. So it assumes that it's not going to like the compass. If you move around, it's going to change dramatically. But if your wrist is lowered, and
are you sure about that? Because on the advert, they like show someone walking up a hill and the feet changing.
It changes. I mean, if the watch is active, but if the screen's dimmed, you're using the Series 5 or 6 and the screen's dimmed, then it doesn't change.
So when they say always on altimeter, they mean that it's like recording it all the time, but it's not updating on the screen.
I mean, that's right. In the sense that if the screen's lit, in the active mode,
it would do it. Yeah.
It would, but if it's dimmed, it won't.
That's kind of misleading. Like,
it is what it is. But I wanted to correct that because I did kind of oversell it last week that it's a little bit different.
Well, yeah, that's an important summary, right? Like,
yeah, like and it's the reason like it jumped out to me at first is that it's kind of weird that the direction that your degree directions for the compass go away and just blinks out. It's like not that elegant. And then by having your elevation stay, it's like, oh, that half of the complication didn't go away. That's kind of nice.
You'd assume that if it's staying on the screen in the dim mode, then it is updating. Otherwise, they would have it blanked out like everything else.
Yeah, and maybe like if you had your watch lowered and you did skydiving, it would change. I don't know, but so far what I've seen in testing is that it's only updating if the watch is in the bright mode. It's active. It just continues to show you things. There's also a thing where it will oftentimes or sometimes at least show you what is the symbol called next to the one? Tilde. Yeah, it'll show you the estimated symbol for your elevation is about this, which is very similar to the negative symbol, which is you're below sea level. And so I've seen like tilde and then negative, and it's kind of very small, but sometimes they get the tilde and the negative mixed up because they're so similar to each other. So it's just some subtleties in using it. But like I don't really have like a practical use of like the altimeter. I still have the experiment with like some pilot friends to do. But what I can say right now is that I'm 58 feet above sea level on the third floor of a hotel. So
the more you know.
The more you know.
Yeah. Also, did you know about Clean My Mac X?
I did.
Clean My Mac X is an all-in-one cleaning and optimizing software solution for your Mac. It's a single package that combines the most useful features for spring cleaning your computer. Scan for outdated junk files and easily work out what is using up all your valuable hard drive space. It makes a visual, virtual map of how your storage is distributed across all your files and folders. Declutter old caches, logs, mail attachments that you no longer need, and so much more. Clean My Mac X detects it all, and you can potentially save gigabytes of space with a single click. Often when you remove a program on the Mac, it leaves little like preference files and caches around that your computer just no longer uses or needs. But built in, there isn't really a good way to clean that stuff up. And Clean My Mac X comes to the rescue to clean out the cruft. And it's designed to be super easy to use. The app will show you step-by-step explanations for every component, so you can be fully confident in the tweaks that it is making. Clean My Mac also features a system report menu, a dashboard of stats like free space, CPU load, used RAM, and other essential information. The menu is beautifully designed and it offers a sneak peek at the state of your entire system. Clean My Mac X is getting ready to be fully compatible with Big Sur later this year. Learn more about Clean My Mac X and download it for free at macpaw.app/happy-hour. That's macpaw.app/happy-hour. Thanks to MacPaw and Clean My Mac X for sponsoring the show.
Yeah, thanks. And just to be clear, it doesn't tweet for you, right? It's tweaks.
It doesn't tweet. It tweets.
Excellent. Cool. All right, let's talk about iOS 14.2. There's a second beta version out this week. The big thing for me is that it's we talked about the problem last week where I had the iPhone 12 problem where 14.1 is made for the iPhone 12. This was compiled before all the new stuff in 14.0 was compiled. And so you lost some features, like at least on the watch side, where you have the blood oxygen app on watchOS 7.1 beta, because that corresponds to 14.2 beta, and you didn't have a lot of the clock faces. This second beta resolves all those issues. So that means that now I could go back to the beta version and enjoy the new now playing experience and AirPlay 2 experience without losing on the watchOS 7 features and Apple Watch Series 6 features.
Yeah, and usually it's like the 0.1, which adds all the emoji, but because of the distorted timeline and schedule this year, that's going to be 40.2, because that was the other thing added in beta 2. They added the emoji that they previewed in July, and now they're all in there to use and share around. And in previous years, that's fallen on the 0.1, but we're pretty confident that 14.1 is what's shipping on the iPhone. So that's why all of this development's happening on the 0.2 branch, because it's just simply that Apple has basically frozen the code development for 14.1, so they know it's stable for the iPhone 12's release, and then they'll follow up with the 14.2 update, soon after that, maybe even the same day.
Yeah,
it will just ship with 14.1.
From the new emoji, I'm a fan of the emoji with like the mustache disguise glasses. So I will use that one in situations where I don't know what to do otherwise. And as a dad, I like the feeding a baby with a bottle, which is the male version of the breastfeeding emoji. So I'm happy to see those two there.
Yeah, and in case people forgot, this year the Unicode Consortium did not manage to hold like a proper meeting because of the pandemic and everything. So they're doing a quote unquote mini update. So there's less emojis than normal. So if you're thinking there should be more,
why don't they have a Zoom call?
I don't know. Clearly, they have to be it has to be face to face to decide the future symbols of our nation and our
species. Really, yeah.
It's impossible to design pretty pictures over FaceTime. It's just not.
Can't do it.
But that's what they said, and so they'll be following up with more emojis in 2021 and 2022.
Man, we gotta get the thing behind us so we can get more emojis. This is getting serious. All right, so that's cool, and I do think I'll update to the beta now that I've got some free time to go back to it, because I really did enjoy the new now playing experience and the way the AirPlay 2 looked and worked. So. Also, there's some AirPlay 2 stuff, HomeKit stuff coming from Roku, which is probably, I mean, it's a this is the continuation of Apple's strategy of putting the Apple TV app in more places, AirPlay 2 in more places. But this is like a very, very big version of that. And we noticed a few weeks ago there were some pictures of streaming devices and set-top boxes as like glyphs within HomeKit. So the idea was, oh boy, are they going to make a streaming Apple TV stick? No, not based on that at least. It's that they're going to support AirPlay 2 and HomeKit with Roku. And AirPlay 2, is you send audio or video or both to your Roku streaming stick connected to your TV. And then HomeKit is, assume you've got the Roku attached to a TV, maybe with a nice soundbar or something. You can assign the room of the room that your Roku is in the Home app, so that you can tell Siri to play a movie or music in that room or everywhere, and it includes it. So that's the HomeKit aspect.
Yeah, exactly. And up to now, AirPlay 2 has been available on smart TVs and obviously the Apple TV box, but this is the first time they're encroaching more on the competitors to the Apple TV by giving it away to
competitors,
quote unquote competitors, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, eat their lunch and market share.
Yeah. Apple's the one. Apple's the small fry here.
Yes, yeah. Even if they're more sophisticated. Yeah.
Yeah, because in a world where Apple was dominant, they wouldn't be doing this, right?
No,
the reason they're having to do this kind of stuff is because they don't have a
lion's share. They should defend their apps for 30% and then I purchase stuff based on this. They're like, look, we're open.
Yeah, like if the Apple TV was, as ubiquitous as an iPhone is, they wouldn't have to bother with, Apple TV apps or other platforms, AirPlay 2 on other platforms or smart TVs. They wouldn't need to, but that's not the reality we live in. So here it is. And it's quite good. Like if you're a Roku owner, it's great. And they say that they don't say all Roku devices, they say select 4K Roku devices coming quote unquote later this year. But that's probably accounts for their most popular recently sold Rokus, right? Like the Roku Ultra Stick and stuff. And they can be bought on Amazon for like $49. So if you're just looking for a device that can connect to your TV and offer the Apple TV app, which it already does, and then offer AirPlay support if you want to beam photos from your phone and just show them on the TV, then this will do it.
I mean, the comparable thing before that would be the Fire TV sticks, which have the Apple TV app, but they don't have AirPlay 2. Like you mentioned, this is the first stick to have AirPlay 2.
Yeah, and there's a big confusion when the Apple TV app comes out, and normally people see that logo and they think it will work like an Apple TV, so they think it's going to add AirPlay, and then they try to do it, but it doesn't work, obviously. So this actually helps patch up some of that. And I've said this on the show before, but easily one of the biggest feature requests I see on my TweetDeck column about Apple TV stuff is people want to be able to Chromecast their TV Plus shows.
Yes.
And this isn't that, but it's inching towards that domain, right? Because, what is AirPlay 2 really? It's an equivalent to Chromecast, and they're just putting it on Roku. If they could agree a partnership with Google and put like AirPlay 2 support on the Chromecast, for instance, then they'd be all the way there. Or if they just worked out some way to, Chromecast from the TV app itself, then they could satisfy those people. But I think Apple's resistant to put basically like the Google SDK in the TV app to support that, so that's why they haven't done it.
Yeah, that's kind of lame. In the Hyatt Place hotel that I stay when I travel for space stuff, the one with the gym kit gym, the TVs in the room, they have you can Chromecast to the TVs, and you go to a website that gives you a code which lets you. It connects to your app, and it lets you Chromecast to the TV in your room so that you're not interfering with every other TV in the hotel. And so that's pretty neat. And I realized, I was like, oh, I can watch everything on my phone, Netflix, Showtime, whatever, YouTube, but I cannot watch this stuff on Apple TV Plus. So if I want to do that, I cannot do that on this TV. So, I am now one of those people who would like the Chromecast from the Apple TV app.
And hopefully the support on Roku extends beyond their sticks to also include like Roku TVs that are sold, right? Because then you do get further depth there in terms of market share. Obviously, every single time Apple does this and they like add Apple Music to the Amazon Echo, or add the Apple TV app to these sticks, or add AirPlay to these sticks. Everyone loves to say, well, now Apple can just give up on the Apple TV itself and call it a day. Like, obviously, I don't know what their roadmap is, but I don't think Apple's going to drop the Apple TV like they did with like the airport line. I think it's too important to them. It's like, it's not a utility. It's directly consumer product that, you know, if you have an Apple TV installed, when you use your TV, you're seeing the Apple TV UI, and that's incredibly powerful. And to just cede all that control to everyone else, I just don't think it's going to happen. It's like, they already this year they did a pretty decent update with tvOS 14, right, to give it, you know, some sizable new features like the AirPlay stuff, and even on the Roku, right, you get AirPlay, but on Apple TV now they've jumped ahead already by offering, like, when you start AirPlaying something on Apple TV or 4K, it first shows up in a little thumbnail so it doesn't take over what you're already doing, and then you can make it full screen, or you can and the Apple TV like integrates with your smart doorbell and the HomeKit stuff there, right? Which the Roku isn't going to do either. So if someone ding dongs on your door, you get a little picture-in-picture preview of the door, and you can, you know, answer the doorbell.
Yeah, Apple TV had the new HBO app and the Peacock app before some competitors had.
Yeah, and Roku still doesn't have HBO Max.
Yeah,
even today,
they got Peacock but not Max.
They got Peacock but not Max. Yeah. Like, and later this year, Apple's about to release a fitness service, which is kind of centered around the Apple TV as one of its core devices, right? Like,
it's like Arcade, just like Arcade
Arcade is very critically tied to Apple TV hardware. They just need to update the Apple TV, and I think it would quell a lot of these complaints. Like,
yeah,
yes, it is very true.
We've lower the price by
yeah. The Apple TV is currently very expensive. But I think Apple is, and Apple isn't going to compete with like these Roku sticks that sell for $49. They're not going to do that, right? They're always, you know, classic Apple. They're always going for the higher end market segment. But I think there's a valid, genuine market there for people that want nice, smart TV experiences, and the stuff that's built into all these TVs. People use it because it comes with it. But I actually tweeted about this, and I was genuinely curious if people were going to say, I don't care about the Apple TV or I love it. And I'd say 80% of the responses were saying, oh, I love my Apple TV. I use it constantly. And I'm definitely in the same boat, but I stand here today and I don't recommend anyone to buy one because they're too expensive. And I feel like they could do more for less money. And
80% of Apple fans like the Apple TV.
Yeah, like, and I think the 20% that don't like it is mostly centered on the remote, right? Which is controversial. And if they can sort out the remote some way to make something that is still, because I like the trackpad, but obviously a lot of people don't. So if they can find some middle ground there to make it so it's not, it's harder to lose, but also easy to navigate for people that just want buttons, right? Like, I still think they could just have a D-pad experience and then a trackpad in the middle, so you can do both, right? Like, and hopefully they're working on that stuff, but we haven't heard, you know, specifics there. The most recent report was that Bloomberg report that we covered, where where Mark said that they're going to add the Find My Apple TV Remote feature by adding a U1 chip to the TV remote, which, you know, it's a start, but
that'll bring the cost down.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to make it more expensive. Like, also, every time I talk about the Apple TV's price, there's people who say, "Oh, it's fine. It can be that expensive because it's got a A12, A10 chip in it." And then there's some people that go, "Oh, I wish Apple would, you know, compromise on their quality bar and use cheaper components to get the price down." And then there's people who, like me, who think that I think they can bring the price down of the current Apple TV and still make money on it. Like, I'll repeat, the Apple TV HD 2015 product still sold for $149.
We need an Apple TV SE. If you add an SE to it, it's a good deal.
$149, insane starting price. To get the 4K one, it's $179, and if you want the 64 gig one, it's $199. Again, this is kind of going off, you know, estimation. I'm pretty sure they can sell a $99 Apple TV 4K and still make money on it. Like, what is it? It's a remote. Okay, you know, there's some cost there because it's quite fancy remote, and then it's a plastic box with a processor in it that's not even a recent processor. Like, I'm pretty sure they could update it with a modern processor and still sell it for under $100, and then it would be in really good shape, and I'd be able to recommend it again. But as it stands today, it's just not. It's the greatest product that you don't want to recommend. Yeah,
the biggest issue for me is that it's that, you know, you mentioned, you know, it's super high end, it's expensive, and it hasn't been changed in a long time. The thing that concerns me the most is that we don't know. Like, if it was like it hasn't been changed in a long time, but we're on the cusp of a new version, then it'd be like, Okay, but it's going to change soon, and we don't know that. Like,
Yeah, like literally that Mark report, that Bloomberg report about it was the first we've heard of it, and he said that maybe it's coming in like March. But
and
if
we've seen evidence of Apple TVs in progress before, but they haven't materialized yet. And there's plenty of examples of things that are like works in progress that don't get released.
yeah, and we have no idea whether they're actually going to bring the price down, which I think is the most important point, right? Like, we basically know they're going to put a newer generation processor in it. If they do nothing else and just release it with a new generation processor and the same remote, but you can, make it ping, it's going to be a disappointment. It's going to be a
It needs an
letdown.
A12Z in it and LiDAR. That would make it worth
They
the
need
cost.
A14 in it. That's what they need.
Yeah, I know. Wow.
If they do something more significant, then I'll be excited for it. But as it stands today, the rumors do not, let us be excited for it because it's just not clear cut enough, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, let's do our last ad spot, and then we'll talk more about Apple TV distribution. Smart investing means having a diversified portfolio: stocks, bonds, mutual funds. But if you've ever looked at the details of the most successful portfolios, you usually find a diversified set of real estate as well. Real estate is not easily available to individual investors until now. Fundrise enables anyone to access these asset classes. Fundrise makes it easy to build a portfolio of institutional quality real estate investments. Whether you're just starting out in the investing field or you're looking to grow, Fundrise has got you covered. It's an investing platform that makes investing in high quality real estate as simple as investing in the stock market. You can build a stable cash flow with a dividend based portfolio or look for long term growth with appreciation. Fundrise supports all pathways. Fundrise manages more than $1 billion in assets for 130,000 investors. Since 2014, the Fundrise platform has averaged 8.7 to 12.4% annual returns. Investors have made in excess of $79 million in dividends alone. Fundrise connects you with a team of real estate professionals that vet and manage all the real estate investments. You can track your portfolio's performance through the easy-to-use Fundrise website. Start building your better portfolio today. Get started at fundrise.com/happyhour to have your first 90 days of advisory fees waived. That's fundrise.com/happyhour to get your first 90 days of advisory fees waived. Fundrise.com/happyhour.
All right, cool. More Apple TV talk on the Apple TV podcast this week.
The Apple TV app on the Apple TV podcast.
This was pretty cool news that the I guess Apple TV app is it officially coming to Xbox or is
not
it
official?
Okay.
There's been screenshot leaks of like the Xbox Insider program, which is like their kind of private beta program, kind of like the Apple Seed program for the HomePod beta.
Windows Insider, I think, is a thing.
Yeah. So Xbox Insider, some person on Twitter screenshotted the Apple TV app appearing in the Xbox Insider UI on like Sunday. I actually saw it on Sunday, but I couldn't get confirmation because he said the app didn't launch. I wasn't sure if people are making it up. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's a lot of like fakes out there because people like to project their ideas about the Epic versus Apple battle in terms of Fortnite, or they like to think that Apple and Microsoft are getting along, so xCloud's going to come out sooner and they're going to resolve the streaming service problems. But anyway, I couldn't confirm it on Sunday, but on Wednesday, Windows Central said that they can confirm that this is indeed in private beta testing, and they're looking to launch it by the time that the next generation of Xbox comes out, which is in early November. After we posted that story, we had sources that then also said that the same app is also in development for the PlayStation as well. So the Apple TV app is coming to games consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, before the end of the year, it seems like.
Does that mean that it's PS5 only and Xbox? What's the name of the Xbox?
Series X, I think.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, we don't know. Obviously, it's not official yet, so we don't know exactly.
The idea is that you get it in more places than that. So you'd support, PS4 and Xbox One. Isn't that the Xbox that's current right now before the new thing comes out?
Yeah, the current one's Xbox One.
Yeah. But we've also seen like with Roku that they've got some requirements, but surely a gaming console would be able to handle the Apple TV app.
Yeah. I
mean, in a way that like a cheap streaming stick might not be able to,
Yeah, I mean, and Apple ships the Apple TV app on cheap streaming sticks.
It could be like the most performant version of the Apple TV experience. It's on a console.
You'd hope the best version is on the Apple TV itself, but
we're talking about an 8. What is it? A10?
Yeah,
Yeah,
18 Fusion's still pretty fast. But
yeah, but like gaming consoles are like,
gaming consoles have proper GPUs and stuff, but
yeah,
depends how a lot of UI is rendered on the CPU, not the GPU. If you actually look into it, so we'll see what performance is like. Maybe that will finally motivate Apple to make something better. But
do you have any consoles?
we have a Xbox One X in the house at the moment.
What's a one Xbox? Okay, so what's an Xbox One X?
That's like
Is it a
the better
variant of the
version of
one?
the Xbox One.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we have a PS4 Pro. Is that the kind of equivalent?
Yeah, so yeah, originally there was Xbox One, and then there was PlayStation 4, then they did PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, basically.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my brother, again, has already pre-ordered the new Xbox, so that'll be here soonish.
Nice.
Games consoles are actually a big category as well. Like, I'd say second after the Chromecast feature requests.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people on Twitter like, put it on my PlayStation. I want to be able to watch, like...
Yeah, when Apple started adding the TV app to TVs, that was my first thought, was the consoles are connected to TVs and people use those as their streaming boxes. Like, that's when I was in college and the Wii was brand new, like that was everybody's streaming media box. Whenever Netflix got an app for the Wii, it was huge. And in this case, there's no sign of a TV app for the Nintendo Switch, which I think the kind of mobile device nature of that device means it's not going to happen. That's a much lighter device, but maybe it would at some point. Like, there are streaming services on the Switch, right? Like, you can do Netflix.
Yeah, but you can get Netflix on the Switch.
Yeah, so that they could do it in the future. We just haven't heard about it yet. And they do like Nintendo, and Nintendo likes Apple, so maybe they got a deal. Only like,
although they don't support the Switch controllers pairing to like the iPad or anything.
Yeah, is that on a technical level though? Or
probably because it's like two separate Bluetooth things working together, right? Whereas like the PlayStation Xbox controller is just one gamepad. So there's probably technical reasons there. From everything we've seen, Apple and Nintendo get on pretty well. Like, they've done partnerships before with Super Mario Run and stuff.
Yeah, although there's arcade now, so who knows? But
I mean, if Apple and Nintendo could partner on some arcade games, that'd be next level. But
it would be.
Nintendo's not going to do that.
No.
Like, when this news broke, I think a common refrain was about, oh, I bet Apple made a deal with Microsoft about xCloud, so they're going to get the TV app on the... Honestly...
Optimistic.
Optimistic. I think those deals happen completely separately and independently, and the people negotiating about the xCloud situation is completely separate to, whoever's partnering on the TV app itself, right? Like, so... And Microsoft did say that they're going to persevere and get some version of xCloud on iOS. They're
going to try to work within the incredible restraints.
They're going to try to work within the stupid constraints, right? Yeah. And maybe make separate apps for every single game, potentially.
Hulu and YouTube are on the Switch as been Aqua, not Netflix.
Oh, Netflix isn't on the Switch? Okay.
I trust that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't actually own a Switch, so...
I don't know.
So I was assuming Netflix is everywhere, so it's surprising it's not on Switch, but okay. Kind of related news, Google had an event this week.
Okay.
Yeah, they announced the new Pixel lineup. Don't care. They announced basically a HomePod competitor for $99. Kind of cool, but I'm not going to buy it. What they announced is actually interesting is a new Chromecast, which they call Google TV. It's $50, and it basically has the Apple TV app, but done properly. So, half my complaints about the Apple TV app are the UI is pretty close. Like, it's not identical, right? And it is different, but you could definitely see inspiration. But like, you can add streaming service content to your library, and it actually shows up in your library. You can filter your recommendations based on which streaming services you actually subscribe to. It integrates live content into the same feed as the recorded content. All the tabs work together. It does, proper search, combining everything all in one. You have a, watch list that includes Netflix, by the way. Like, the TV app could do up next with like every streaming service apart from Netflix. Google seems to have sweethearted a deal with them to let them add a queue with Netflix content as well. People said, why have Netflix been able to get away with this? So why has Google been able to get away with this with Netflix and no one else has? It might be slightly to do with the fact that the Google TV remote has a dedicated button for Netflix. So there's obviously some kind of like advertising deal going on there, because literally one of the buttons on the remote launches the Netflix app with a Netflix logo and you can't change it. So they're obviously given some concessions to get what they want, but the end result is you can actually have a unified watch list, and Google is the only one to have successfully done it so far.
Google cracked TV.
Yeah, I mean, normally you have like the mission objective is like attempted by Android, right? And then Apple comes along and does it properly. In this case, it seems like the reverse is happening. Like Apple, the idea of the unified TV app has been a thing since 2016, and for 4 years, Apple has kind of done very incremental updates to a kind of mediocre app in the first place, even despite launching a streaming service that's exclusively available through the app, which they're investing billions and billions of dollars in. The UI of the app has not been a priority. Google TV has come along with a decent product. The hardware's kind of meh, but it's $49. What do you want? And a good app that's also available on iOS and Android as well. So
what is it? What is their gaming service called? It's like
Stadia.
Yeah, it's like Splenda, but not. Can it do that? Can it Stadia?
It can, but not at launch.
Oh, okay. All right.
They're going to add it at some point.
Yeah. Huh.
Yes, Google Stadia has been a mess of its own making. Like, they have problems and they don't have many games and stuff. So, like Stadia has obviously more AAA games than Apple Arcade does because it can actually run like desktop games. But I'm pretty sure when Microsoft xCloud and PlayStation Now come out properly, Stadia's going to get kind of left behind because
it's not Google's forte.
It's not Google's focus, and they don't have the same power as Microsoft and Sony to get the game deals to actually get the content on there. Most of the releases on Stadia are just like really, really old games, like 5-year-old games, which kind of, or even just like platform games, which is like not the point of Stadia, right? Because you want to be playing like the full 3D rich games that you couldn't play normally on your phone, but you can stream from the cloud. So unfortunately, Stadia isn't going too well for them. But if you get a Google Pixel 5, you get 3 months free because they're trying to boost their services revenue as well, just like Apple is.
Cool, nice.
But yeah, TV app, I'll give it a thumbs up for the Google TV experience.
And then we have this video partner program, which we've heard has long existed because Apple said so. And we know that Amazon and 2 other places that were international were partners in this, but that no one else could really be. And when we discussed this pretty in depth on the show before, of like not many channels or companies are going to have the same resources as that appeals to Apple. That they have like a digital store and they've got all these different things that makes it appealing to Apple. But now there is an official public-facing, developer-facing video partner program. What is it? What does it do?
So they've got a web page that lets you apply to be part of the video partner program.
That was always there.
To be fair, right, we do have to rescind some of our criticism about the reach because they say on this page that as of full 2020, so now, they have over 130 video entertainment providers are using this program, including Amazon Prime Video, Binge, Disney Plus, HBO Max,
cool,
Stars, and Viaplay. So they with 130 people, they're the big streaming services, right? And that program requires that the app has to be available on iOS and tvOS. It has to support live tune-in if you have live content. That's the feature where you can tell Siri to play a live channel, which is nice, but it'd be great if the TV app had a grid UI so you could actually pick the live channel visually as well. And then you have to integrate with Universal Search, Siri, and the Apple TV app in all regions where those features are available. And you have to support AirPlay and a few other things. And in exchange for that, you can get 85% of an 85% rate, whereas normally subscription apps on Apple's platforms start at 70% and they go to 85% after a year. So far, over 132 entertainment apps are taking advantage of the bonus commission because they're partnering with the TV stuff. So fair play, they now have more people on board, and it does seem like they're giving everyone the same financial deal. And I'm very happy to see there is actually, a public webpage now where any person can actually go and submit and try and talk to someone. Because before it was like, you needed an existing relationship with them. You basically had to go in through the back door and, do some sneaky chats. So now they've actually made it public. And this is part of just a big push they did. They kind of revamped a lot of their like Apple developer pages last week, talking about how good the App Store is, obviously not saying it directly, but trying to counter some of the, monopoly arguments. So
yeah. And what benefits Apple here is because it's a big deal to go from 30% to 15% without waiting the 1 year and having maintained an uninterrupted subscription. But the benefit from Apple here is to make the app the channel's app a better experience for customers, because if you support all of those things, then it is a much better experience because those features that you support as a platform are actually in existence. You could then argue like Apple should have the same incentives for developers, that if you take advantage of like modern platform features, you're using like iOS 14 features, you're using new frameworks, you're doing things like that, then hey, you're also an outstanding developer citizen.
That'd be
So
nice.
that would be, but there's not that incentive for Apple to do that.
Yeah, because if you look at the Apple TV App
It's more
Store,
competitive on the App
like
Store.
Apple added multi-user last year. No apps use it apart from Apple's apps. This year they've added picture-in-picture. So far, no apps use it. Like, unfortunately, the video partner program doesn't require these apps to take advantage of picture-in-picture, because that'd be really useful. It should, but then maybe people would do it. But clearly, unless these big companies are financially incentivized to support specific Apple TV features, they're not going to do it. So this is where we come to. And if Apple had a good TV app, they could take advantage of all this data they collected from all these 130 partners in a big way and have a very compelling offering. So fingers crossed they get there eventually.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm just glad that this program's like public now.
Yeah, nice. It's always existed in my mind. Apple acquires Scout FM. It's a podcast radio service. What does that mean? What is this?
Yeah, so just to kind of close out the news, last Thursday, I think it was, Apple quietly acquired a company called Scout FM. They basically do like a podcast recommendation engine in the app that was out on the store on Android and iOS. It's now been pulled. But basically, you'd like pick a few topics, and then it would make a continuous radio station of podcast episodes that were based around those topics.
It's like Beats Music the Sentence.
Yes, or like the radio tab in Apple Music at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I kind of find it hard to see the appeal in like a podcast radio service, because why do you want like a feed of the same kind of topics when you could just pick the feed yourself?
We listen to podcasts differently, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely true that if you're just like an average person, discovery is very difficult for podcasting. And
if you look at the podcast browse page, for example, then it's like, how much of that do you subscribe to?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but obviously it's there for a reason.
Yeah, I think there are generally people who just want to open like the podcast app, click a topic like news, and just listen to podcasts about the news.
Yeah.
Or slightly more fine-grained than that. And Apple's acquired these companies, so presumably they're going to roll some kind of feature of that into the podcast app in future as they ramp up development of more and more podcasting features. And
that's what I think you meant years ago about the podcast app.
Yeah, because obviously they've acquired loads of companies. They've got new management and leadership, and they are reportedly making original content for podcasting. We're just kind of waiting for all that to come to the fore and actually start being released.
Yeah, and the big public facing thing they did was to do the Apple News Today podcast.
Yeah, they do Apple News Today, and they put they hired that person to lead the division, which I can't remember his name, but
gotcha.
They've hired a lot of people in the podcast space, basically.
Yes, they have.
Yeah. So they're doing something.
Let's go with they hired David Attenborough. Is his name the narrator?
I wish they'd hire David Attenborough.
Yeah, we'll just pull that out. All right, cool. Anything else for this week?
All from me.
Yeah, we're on the verge. I'm thinking about this. We're on the verge of probably like an iPhone 12 event announcement.
Yeah.
We think the last 2 weeks of the month. We think pre-orders on the 16th and release on the 23rd. Without looking at a calendar, I think that's what we're landing on for just predictions, not reporting. There's a lot of rumors about an event on the 13th of October. So if that's the case, we maybe have an announcement next week or so. A lot of people have noticed that there's that AirPods promotion, or maybe it's back to school, ends on the 12th of October. People have been like, see, that's why there's a 13th event. I don't know. It has to end at some point, and it ends every year without an event. But in this case, there will be an event. Maybe it won't be the 13th, but we'll see. Sooner than later is cool. Also, the iPad Air is closer to release because we're now in October.
That is true, actually.
Which is when it comes out. And I've seen reporting people that are looking at Apple Store stuff that Apple stores are getting material for the iPad Air. So launch is probably imminent.
And Apple One.
And Apple One.
Is sometime soonish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Apple Fitness Plus is by the end of the year, so we're technically closer to all of them.
Every day we are.
Every day.
Yep. All right. That is the Happy Hour podcast this week. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Apollo Zach. Benjamin, you're on Twitter at
BZA Mayo.
And you can email the both of us at happyhour@9to5mac.com. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe. Please give us a recommendation, a rating, and we will be back next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.